Stop chasing money. Stop hoping. Stop waiting. If you want to become a millionaire, you must assume it first, because wealth does not come to those who desire it. It comes to those who decide it is already done. What if the version of you who is already a millionaire exists right now, and the only thing separating you from that reality is your state of being? Neville Goddard taught that life responds not to effort, but to assumption. In this video, you will learn how acting as if you are already wealthy restructures your reality and forces the world to conform. Neville Goddard made one truth unmistakably clear: you do not manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. The mistake most people make is imagining money while still identifying as someone who lacks it. Acting as if does not mean pretending. It means internally shifting your self-concept. A millionaire does not hope, wish, or beg. They expect. They decide. They move with certainty. When you assume the identity of wealth, your thoughts, reactions, and choices automatically change, and reality must follow. The law of assumption demands that you mentally occupy the end result. Stop visualizing the struggle, the grind, or the journey. Assume the outcome is complete. Neville taught that imagination creates reality when it is experienced as present fact. Ask yourself, how would I feel if my wealth were already secured? Calm, grounded, unrushed. When you dwell in that feeling, you impress the subconscious mind, and the outer world reorganizes itself to match. Money is not paper. It is not numbers. It is consciousness. A wealthy state thinks differently, reacts differently, and interprets life differently. Acting as if you are a millionaire means you no longer make decisions from fear or scarcity. You do not panic. You do not chase. You trust. When your inner world stabilizes into abundance, the external symbols of wealth appear naturally, often in ways you could never logically predict. Desperation is proof you do not believe it is done. Neville warned that effort signals disbelief. Acting as if means relaxing into certainty. A millionaire does not obsess over money. They assume its availability. The moment you stop checking, worrying, and forcing, you enter the state where manifestation accelerates. Calm assumption is the magnetic force. Pay attention to how you react to bills, prices, opportunities, and success in others. Reaction exposes belief. Acting as if you are wealthy means responding from inner security. You no longer feel threatened by lack or impressed by excess. You observe life from a position of ownership, not longing. Change your reactions and you change your dominant assumption. Neville emphasized persistence, not effort, but mental loyalty. Acting as if is not a one-time exercise, it is a disciplined state of being. The world may lag. Circumstances may contradict you. Ignore them. Remain faithful to your assumption. Reality has no choice but to reorganize. When the inner conversation stabilizes, the outer world must reflect it. Neville Goddard was unwavering on this principle. You do not manifest from desire, you manifest from identity. The moment you say, I want to be a millionaire, you are confessing that you are not one. And the law of assumption does not respond to wishes, it responds to states. Acting as if you are a millionaire begins with a radical inner decision. This is who I am now, not someday, not after proof, now. Most people attempt manifestation while secretly remaining loyal to an old self-concept. They imagine money, but they still think like someone who fears bills. They visualize success, but they still react emotionally to lack. This inner contradiction is why results feel slow or inconsistent. Acting as if is not pretending on the surface, it is shifting the center of your identity. A millionaire is not someone who constantly thinks about money. A millionaire is someone who expects abundance as normal. That expectation is a state of consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. Neville Goddard taught that the world is a mirror, faithfully reflecting your assumptions back to you. If you assume you are wealthy, your inner dialogue changes automatically. You stop saying, I hope this works, and begin saying, of course this works. You stop asking for permission. You stop explaining yourself. Your decisions become quieter, calmer, more decisive. This is how identity manifests, through subtle shifts in thought, posture, tone, and expectation. Acting from identity means you do not wait for external validation to feel secure. You do not wait for the bank balance to change before you relax. You relax first. You embody the version of you who is already financially settled. Ask yourself honestly, how would I move through my day if money were no longer a concern? You would not rush. You would not overthink small expenses. You would not feel inferior or anxious. You would feel grounded. That grounded feeling is the seed of manifestation. Many misunderstand acting as if and believe it means reckless spending or artificial confidence. Neville never taught that. Acting as if is an inner alignment, not an outer performance. It is mental ownership. It is knowing without needing to show. You do not need to convince anyone. You only need to convince yourself. When the subconscious accepts the new identity, behavior and opportunity reorganize naturally. This identity shift also changes what you tolerate. A millionaire identity does not accept environments, conversations, or habits rooted in lack. You begin to feel uncomfortable with scarcity thinking, even when it comes from others. Not judgmental, just detached. You no longer emotionally participate in fear-based discussions about money. This detachment is not arrogance, it is alignment. Another powerful aspect of identity is expectation. Expectation is silent command. When you expect wealth, you unconsciously select opportunities that match it. You notice ideas others overlook. You speak with confidence without trying. People respond differently to you, not because you forced it, but because your state changed. Neville emphasized that others play their roles automatically once you shift your assumption. The world rearranges itself without effort on your part. If you feel resistance, that is not failure. It is evidence of an old identity dissolving. The mind may protest, "This isn't real yet." Ignore it. Persist gently. Do not argue with the 3D world. Reality is a delayed reflection. Remain loyal to who you have decided to be. Identity always precedes evidence. When you truly act from the identity of a millionaire, you stop asking how. You stop micromanaging the bridge of events. You trust the law. You understand that wealth is not something you chase. It is something you allow by becoming the person who naturally experiences it. This is not fantasy. This is law. And once identity shifts, manifestation becomes inevitable. Neville Goddard repeatedly emphasized that creation is finished. Nothing is coming into being later. Everything already exists as a state, waiting for you to occupy it. Living in the end means you do not mentally rehearse the struggle, the steps, or the delay. You move directly to the conclusion. Acting as if you are a millionaire requires that you mentally stand in the fulfilled state and allow the process to unfold without interference. Most people unknowingly sabotage manifestation by constantly revisiting the middle. They imagine effort, obstacles, and timelines. They ask, "How will this happen?" or "When will it show up?" But these questions are confessions of doubt. Neville taught that the subconscious mind accepts only what is felt as now. The moment wealth is experienced internally as present fact, the seed is planted. The world then reorganizes itself to bring that assumption into physical form. Living in the end is not visualization for entertainment. It is an assumption stabilized through feeling. Ask yourself, if my financial life were already complete and secure, how would I feel when I wake up in the morning? You would not feel euphoric every day. You would feel normal, calm, unburdened. That quiet satisfaction is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you return to that feeling repeatedly, especially in moments of stillness, you impress it upon the subconscious mind. Neville Goddard explained that imagination is not fantasy, it is the creative power of God within you. When you imagine from the end, you are not hoping for wealth, you are remembering it. You are stepping into a version of reality that already exists. This is why persistence is not about forcing images, but about returning again and again to the same inner conclusion. A common misunderstanding is thinking you must constantly visualize scenes of money, luxury, or success. Neville clarified that one imaginal act, if felt as real and accepted as true, is enough. After that, your job is to remain faithful to the assumption. You do not dig up the seed to check if it is growing. You go about your day with the quiet knowing that it is done. Living in the end also means you stop emotionally reacting to contradictory circumstances. The outer world may still show bills, delays, or limitations. These are echoes of previous assumptions. If you react emotionally, you give them life again. Instead, you observe them neutrally. You remind yourself that they are shadows of an old state. Neville taught that reaction equals agreement. Non-reaction is power. This is where true discipline is required. Not discipline of action, but discipline of thought. When the mind drifts into worry, you gently return it to fulfillment. Not with force, but with certainty. You say internally, "This is already resolved." Over time, this inner stance becomes natural. The feeling of wealth stops being something you visit and starts being something you live from. Living in the end also changes how you move through life. You no longer rush or strain. You do not chase opportunities aggressively. You become selective, intuitive, and composed. This composure itself attracts favorable outcomes. People trust those who trust themselves. Circumstances align with those who are not internally divided. Neville often said that the bridge of incidents is none of your concern. Events will unfold in ways that seem ordinary, even accidental. A conversation, an idea, a delay, a redirection. Each step perfectly arranged. When you live in the end, you do not attempt to control these steps. You allow them. Control is rooted in fear. Allowing is rooted in faith. The end state is the cause. Everything else is effect. When you remain loyal to the fulfilled state, life has no option but to mirror it back to you. This is not positive thinking. This is alignment with law. Live in the end long enough, and the world will confirm what you already know to be true. Wealth is not a number in a bank account, a balance sheet, or a title on a document. Neville Goddard repeatedly emphasized that money and abundance are expressions of a state of consciousness. A millionaire does not become rich because of effort alone, hard work, or clever strategies. They are rich because their inner state aligns with the reality of wealth. Acting as if you are a millionaire is not about the external symbols. It is about assuming the inner consciousness of someone who already possesses abundance. Most people live in a constant state of lack. They measure life against scarcity, and their mind is filled with worry, comparison, and fear. They believe wealth is something outside themselves, something to be earned or hunted. Neville taught that this is the reverse of truth. The external world is a mirror of the inner state. If your inner world is one of lack, the world will continue to show lack. If your inner world is one of abundance, the world must conform. Consciousness creates reality. Therefore, if you wish to become wealthy, the first step is to embody the consciousness of a millionaire, even if your bank account has not yet reflected it. Acting as if you are wealthy means cultivating the habits, the emotions, and the mental patterns of someone who is already rich. A millionaire thinks differently. They do not panic over money. They do not make decisions from fear or limitation. Their thoughts are constructive, focused on opportunities rather than problems. When you assume their consciousness, you automatically begin to see possibilities where others see obstacles. You respond to life with confidence rather than anxiety, and this shift alone begins to attract the circumstances and people that match the inner state you hold. Neville insisted that feeling is the secret. It is not enough to merely imagine money or success. You must feel it as real, as present, as already yours. This feeling transforms your consciousness. A millionaire's state of being is calm, grounded, and secure. You can act as if by engaging fully in the experiences, thoughts, and emotions of someone for whom financial abundance is the norm. You may start small, appreciating what you have and imagining what it would feel like to have more. But the key is to live from the inner reality, not from what appears externally. Another aspect of assuming millionaire consciousness is detachment from external validation. You do not rely on bills, bank balances, or the opinions of others to confirm your state. You know internally that your wealth exists because consciousness itself is creative. When you persist in this state, you naturally begin to notice opportunities, ideas, and connections that previously went unnoticed. The world starts to respond to your inner alignment, and external results follow inevitably. Your reactions reveal the state of your consciousness. Notice how you feel when confronted with expenses, delays, or apparent scarcity. If your consciousness remains calm and unshaken, you are truly acting as a millionaire. If fear, doubt, or frustration arises, this is a signal that you have drifted from the state. Neville taught that reality conforms to the inner state. By consistently choosing to respond with the security and composure of someone who already possesses wealth, you reinforce that state until it dominates your consciousness completely. Wealth as a state of consciousness also influences your choices and environment. A millionaire attracts people, opportunities, and circumstances that match their inner state. You stop tolerating negativity, scarcity thinking, or limiting beliefs in your environment. You begin to make decisions that feel natural and aligned with abundance. You act not from lack, but from inner sufficiency. This shift in internal orientation inevitably brings external wealth in forms you may not have expected, but which are perfectly suited to the consciousness you embody. Neville's teaching reminds us that wealth is not something to chase, it is something to inhabit. When you assume the consciousness of a millionaire, the world must follow. Your inner state dictates the outer reality. Acting as if is not an exercise in fantasy. It is a conscious alignment with the law of consciousness itself. Persist in this state, nurture it, and allow it to govern your emotions, thoughts, and actions, and external wealth will appear naturally, reflecting the reality you have already created within yourself. Desperation and urgency are powerful forces, but in the realm of manifestation, they are entirely counterproductive. Neville Goddard taught that the law of assumption operates through the state of consciousness, not through frantic effort or pleading. When you act as if you are a millionaire, it is essential to release any sense of urgency, any desperate grasping, because these states signal disbelief. A millionaire does not chase wealth, they embody it effortlessly, quietly, and with complete assurance that it already exists. Most people approach manifestation with impatience. They want results now, and when results are delayed, they panic, double their effort, and reinforce the very scarcity they wish to escape. Neville emphasized that the universe is not responding to your hustle, it responds to your inner assumption. Urgency, worry, or anxiety are all expressions of an old self-concept rooted in lack. Acting as if requires a radical departure from this. You must relax into certainty, cultivating calm faith in the reality you have assumed. To embody this principle, notice your internal reactions to money, opportunity, or obstacles. When fear arises, fear of not having enough, fear of failure, or fear of missing out, pause and remind yourself this is the voice of old belief. Acting as if requires you to maintain inner composure regardless of external circumstances. Neville often said that your feelings are the signal to your subconscious. If you react with tension, the subconscious interprets that as your current truth. If you react with peace, confidence, and expectation, it accepts that as reality. Your outer world is simply a mirror reflecting what your inner world holds true. This release of urgency is closely tied to trust. You must trust that the law of assumption works and that all things necessary for your manifestation will align perfectly. When you insist on controlling every step, checking progress, or measuring results, you are communicating doubt. A millionaire does not measure or question, they assume completion. Their internal stance is not conditional on circumstance. They carry wealth as a state, not as a goal, and this detachment acts as a magnet, attracting the people, opportunities, and conditions that align with their assumed state. Furthermore, releasing urgency shifts your energy from friction to flow. Friction creates resistance. Resistance delays manifestation. Flow, born from calm confidence, creates acceleration. Acting as if a millionaire is about moving in harmony with life, not against it. You make decisions from a place of abundance, not scarcity. You respond rather than react. You do not force opportunities, you allow them. Every interaction, every choice, every moment is colored by the quiet certainty of wealth, which the universe mirrors back with perfect fidelity. Neville also emphasized that your internal state is more influential than external effort. Many people labor tirelessly, thinking action alone will bring results. The truth is, action must be guided by assumption, not desperation. When urgency fades and faith strengthens, the right actions naturally present themselves. You do not overextend, overthink, or overcomplicate. Your steps are deliberate, intuitive, and aligned with your assumed state. The outer world begins to conform because your inner state radiates it effortlessly. Finally, releasing urgency fosters patience without doubt. Patience in manifestation is not passive waiting, it is active assurance. It is knowing the end is already fulfilled and holding that certainty without question. The moment you release desperation, your consciousness aligns fully with the millionaire identity. This alignment is the invisible force that reshapes reality. You no longer act from fear, from need, or from lack. You act from certainty, composure, and inner fulfillment. This is the essence of acting as if. The law of assumption does not respond to frantic pleas. It responds to the unshakable inner conviction that what you desire is already yours. When you master this principle, you will find that wealth, opportunities, and abundance flow naturally, effortlessly, and inevitably into your life. Every action you take, every word you speak, and every thought you allow reveals the state of your inner assumption. Neville Goddard taught that your reactions are the truest measure of whether you have assumed the consciousness of your desired state. If you truly act as if you are a millionaire, your responses to life will reflect security, confidence, and calm expectation rather than fear, anxiety, or lack. This is not a superficial performance, it is an authentic expression of identity. Your reactions act as a mirror for your inner state, and the world reflects them back to you accordingly. Observe how you respond to financial matters, opportunities, or setbacks. A person who has not assumed the state of wealth reacts with tension, worry, and impatience. They feel threatened by bills, stressed by opportunities, and anxious about what might be missing. These reactions are unconscious confessions that lack dominates their state. Conversely, someone acting as if they are wealthy reacts differently. They remain composed when faced with challenges. They are not flustered by obstacles or disappointed by delays. Instead, they see situations as neutral, temporary, and ultimately aligned with their assumed reality. This internal composure is a powerful magnet for external manifestation. Neville emphasized that the subconscious mind is always watching, always recording, always responding. It does not distinguish between thoughts you say out loud and thoughts you harbor silently. Every emotional response, every tension, every doubt is noted. If your reactions betray scarcity, your subconscious reinforces that scarcity in your outer life. If your reactions convey confidence and assurance, your subconscious reinforces abundance. Acting as if a millionaire requires constant awareness of these reactions and deliberate alignment with the state of wealth. To refine your reactions, begin by imagining scenarios where your millionaire state might be challenged. Perhaps an unexpected expense arises or a friend discusses financial hardship. Instead of reacting with fear or judgment, maintain the inner stance of abundance. Feel secure, confident, and calm. Respond naturally from this state, not from old patterns of lack. Over time, this becomes automatic. Your reactions will consistently reflect the consciousness of someone who already possesses wealth, regardless of external circumstances. This practice extends beyond money. It applies to every aspect of life that touches your assumed state. The world communicates to you in opportunities, conversations, events, and coincidences. Your reactions determine whether these signals are interpreted through the lens of lack or abundance. A millionaire's reactions are selective, constructive, and aligned with their inner state. They do not allow minor disturbances, negative opinions, or temporary setbacks to disrupt their sense of wealth. They understand that outer circumstances are always secondary to the internal assumption. Neville also pointed out that consistency is key. A single lapse in reaction does not ruin your assumption, but repeated reactions rooted in old belief can undermine it. Therefore, training your reactions is an ongoing process. Observe yourself in real-life situations, notice when scarcity or doubt sneaks in, and consciously shift back to composure and faith. The more consistent your reactions align with wealth, the more quickly your outer circumstances adjust to reflect your inner state. Furthermore, refining reactions strengthens your authority over reality. People naturally respond to those who operate from an internal state of power. When you react as a person of wealth and composure, others treat you differently. Opportunities align with your expectations. Conversations open doors. Challenges become manageable. This is not manipulation. It is simply the natural consequence of a consciousness that communicates certainty and abundance. Ultimately, Neville's teaching reveals that manifestation is less about external actions and more about internal fidelity. The outer world mirrors the fidelity of your inner assumption. By cultivating millionaire reactions, calm, assured, composed, you solidify the state of wealth in your consciousness. Your reactions become the proof of your assumption, the evidence for your subconscious, and the signal to the world that abundance is your natural state. Persist in this, and you will find that reality itself bends to reflect the consciousness you maintain. Neville Goddard emphasized that persistence is the cornerstone of all successful manifestation. Acting as if you are a millionaire is not a temporary exercise. It is a disciplined state of consciousness that must be maintained until your outer reality conforms. Many people make the mistake of assuming their desired state briefly, then abandoning it when the world does not immediately reflect their assumption. This impatience is the very thing that prevents manifestation. Persistence is not about forcing circumstances. It is about remaining faithful to your inner state, regardless of external appearances. To persist effectively, you must anchor yourself in the end result, fully embodying the feelings, thoughts, and attitudes of the person who already possesses the wealth you desire. Neville taught that the end is always complete. It exists now in the realm of imagination. Your role is to remain unwavering in that state, consistently returning to it whenever distraction, doubt, or disbelief arises. The world may present contradictions, delays, obstacles, or skepticism, but these are irrelevant to the inner reality. External circumstances are simply mirrors of past beliefs. Your loyalty is to the present assumption, not to what the world currently shows. Persistence requires vigilance over your internal conversations. Observe the thoughts that flow through your mind, the emotions that rise within you, and the judgments you make about events around you. Every thought that contradicts your assumed state of wealth is a crack in your mental alignment. Neville emphasized that these cracks must be corrected immediately, not with frustration or force, but with gentle redirection back to the assumption. Repeat silently or in thought the reality you have chosen. Feel it, live it. Know it is true, no matter what evidence appears in the physical world. One of the greatest challenges in persistence is resisting the temptation to check for proof. Many aspiring manifestors constantly measure results, scrutinize circumstances, or seek confirmation. Neville warned that such scrutiny reinforces doubt and indicates a lack of faith. True persistence is quiet, confident, and undisturbed by appearances. It trusts that once the assumption is fully accepted internally, the outer world will adjust accordingly. Acting as if you are a millionaire requires patience as well as persistence. A steadfast commitment to your inner state despite the seeming delay of external manifestation. Another key aspect of persistence is emotional fidelity. Neville taught that feeling is the secret to manifestation. It is not enough to intellectually assert wealth. You must feel the reality of it as if it exists now. Your emotions are the language of the subconscious mind. When you persist in feeling the state of wealth, your subconscious is impressed and begins to act in accordance with it. Even small lapses in feeling can slow the process, so returning to the desired emotion repeatedly strengthens the inner assumption until it dominates your consciousness completely. Persistence also shapes your perception of the world. When you remain unwavering in your assumed state, events that might have previously seemed obstacles are interpreted as steps in the natural unfolding of your reality. Opportunities, coincidences, and interactions align in ways that appear miraculous, but are actually the inevitable outcome of your consistent inner state. Neville often emphasized that the bridge of incidents, the sequence of outer events, is arranged to correspond perfectly to your inner assumption. Your faith and persistence ensure that you remain aligned as these events unfold. Finally, persistence fosters mastery over your consciousness. By consistently returning to the millionaire state, you train your mind to inhabit abundance as a default. Doubts diminish, distractions lose their power, and your sense of security strengthens. External circumstances cannot shake you because your wealth is anchored internally. Neville's law never fails. When the inner state is faithfully maintained, the outer world, bound to the assumptions held within, will inevitably conform. Persistent assumption is therefore the ultimate expression of acting as if, and it is the final step in transforming your imagined state into tangible reality.